Welcome back to Inherited Dawn, a One Piece podcast. We are breaking down the absolute gut punch that is Chapter 62, MH5.
And that title is not an exaggeration. We go from a crisis of conscience to an act of pure, indiscriminate evil in the span of just a few moments.
And it all ends with one of the most selfless sacrifices we've seen yet. A man gives his life for the captain of the man who saved him. The chain of events here is just perfect.
If you want to follow along as we unpack every link in Oda's chain, from East Blue to the end of the Grand Line, you should probably subscribe. It's the best way to make sure you don't miss the moment it all connects.
Let's get into it, because we start right in the thick of it. Don Krieg is staring down Gin, his most loyal man, and he is furious.
Gin just defied a direct order to kill Sanji. For Krieg, that's not just insubordination, it's a fundamental betrayal of his entire philosophy. His entire empire is built on the idea of absolute obedience, of men as cogs in his war machine. A cog doesn't get to have a conscience.
Exactly. He says something about Gin having an excess in his personality, something that made him great on the battlefield but is now a liability. What he means is kindness. He's literally angry that his subordinate showed a flicker of humanity. Think about that. We've seen other villains. Morgan was about personal power. Kuro was about meticulous planning and escape. But Krieg is the first one who seems to be at war with the very concept of human decency.
It's a purely utilitarian worldview. He saw Gin's capacity for what he might call sentimentality as a weapon when directed outward. Gin's ruthlessness was a product of his fierce loyalty to Krieg. The moment that excess turns inward, the moment it makes him question an order, it becomes a bug in the system, and Krieg is an exterminator.
And again, even while defying him, is still deferential. He's on his knees, head bowed. He says he'll always respect and admire Krieg. He just can't bring himself to kill Sanji, the man who showed him kindness when he was starving. He's trying so hard to thread this impossible needle.
It's a powerful illustration of conditioning. He's breaking an order, but he's doing it in the most submissive way possible. It's like a dog that refuses to fetch, but still wags its tail, hoping not to be punished. He doesn't see Krieg as wrong, necessarily. He just sees this one command as something he, personally, is incapable of fulfilling.
The guts on Gin, man. To look the pirate admiral he's dedicated his life to in the eye and say, "No, I can't do this. Let them go." He's not fighting him, he's pleading. He's trying to find a third option where his loyalty and his conscience can both survive. He thinks there's a world where he can still be Krieg's man and also be a decent person.
But there is no third option in Don Krieg's world. You're either a tool for his victory, or you're an obstacle. And Gin just became an obstacle. For Krieg, strength is the only virtue. Any other quality is a flaw. Gin's plea is, in Krieg's eyes, the ultimate expression of weakness.
The rest of the Krieg pirates are just watching this, completely lost. Their strongest fighter, the demon Gin, is suddenly on the outs with the commander. The whole power dynamic of their crew is imploding right on the deck of the Barati. You can see the confusion on their faces. This isn't how it's supposed to work. The strong guy is supposed to be rewarded, not condemned.
It introduces a crack in their own belief system. If Gin, the most loyal and powerful among them, can be discarded so easily, what does that mean for them? They're not just watching a subordinate being disciplined, they're watching their own job security, their own value vanish before their eyes.
And this is where Krieg shows his true colors. He doesn't just get angry. He doesn't challenge Gin to a duel to prove his strength. That would be too personal, too honorable. Now, he decides to solve the problem with overwhelming impersonal cruelty. He pulls out the MH5, a poison gas bomb.
The weapon itself speaks volumes about him. It's not a rifle or sword. It requires no skill, no bravery. It's a weapon of mass destruction, designed to eliminate everything in an area without distinction between friend or foe, strong or weak. It is the perfect weapon for a man who sees people not as individuals, but as statistics.
And the immediate reaction of his own crew tells you everything. They don't brace for a fight. They don't rally behind Krieg. They all just pull out their gas masks. They know exactly what this is, and they know he'll use it without a second thought, even with them right there. It's so casual, so practiced. This must just be another Tuesday on the Dreadnought Saber.
It's standard operating procedure for them, which is horrifying in its own right. Think of the implications. How many times have they gassed an island, a ship, a town, just to win? How many of their own have been caught without a mask and left for dead? This is a crew held together not by camaraderie, but by the shared terror of their captain. But then Krieg takes it a step further. He turns to Gin, demotes him on the spot, and gives him one last order. Throw away your mask. Just cold. Stone cold. It's not enough to kill him for his defiance. He has to break him first. It's so cold. He's not just killing him, he's forcing Gin to participate in his own execution as a final twisted test of the loyalty he just betrayed. The logic is perverse. If you are truly loyal, you will obey my order to die for your previous disloyalty. It's a paradox designed to prove his absolute authority. There is no way for Gin to win. If he refuses, he's a traitor. If he obeys, he's dead.
It's the ultimate power trip. He's making Jin choose between his life and the last shred of his identity as a loyal Krieg pirate. And the worst part is, after everything, Jin still chooses loyalty. It's just devastating to watch. Even Krieg's nameless goons are shocked. They can't believe it. They start talking amongst themselves, reminding each other of Jin's history.
And that little snippet of dialogue is so crucial. It feels like Oda giving us a rapid-fire backstory to make this moment hurt even more. This is the guy who went to a marine ship alone and pretended to be the captain to save the whole crew when Full Body was chasing them. He put himself in the line of fire for them.
They called him Demon Jin because he would do anything to win, anything to ensure Krieg's victory. He sacrificed everything for this man, over and over. That title, Demon, wasn't about him being evil. It was about him being inhumanly dedicated. He was a force of nature, a shield for the entire fleet.
He was a demon for Krieg. He subsumed his own identity into that role. The problem arose when he was asked to be a demon to his own conscience. The part of him that recognized Sanji's act of grace couldn't be reconciled with the demon persona.
And the second he shows he's a human for himself, Krieg treats him like he's nothing. That is the fundamental difference between a crew like Krieg's and a crew like Luffy's. One is built on fear and utility. The other is built on dreams and bonds. And we're watching the fear-based model eat itself alive.
It's a perfect deconstruction of that particular pirate fantasy, the idea of the all-powerful, ruthless captain. Oda is showing us the rot at the core of that ideology. A crew built on fear will eventually turn on itself because fear is not a sustainable foundation.
While all this is happening, Luffy tries to make a move. He's not just standing there. He sees what's coming, he hears the order, and he just goes. He tries to rush Krieg, but gets knocked back hard. He can't get to him in time to stop the bomb from being prepped.
But he doesn't stop trying to stop what's happening. He looks at Jin, this man he has no connection to, this enemy, and he shouts that he's going to save him. Luffy's moral calculus is so beautifully simple. He sees an injustice, a strong guy picking on someone who is defenseless, and his immediate, only response is to intervene.
And this is the most heartbreaking part. Jin hears this. He sees Luffy, a total stranger, willing to fight for him, a captain willing to risk his own life for an enemy, simply because it's the right thing to do. He gets a glimpse of a different world, a different kind of captain. But he looks back at Krieg, his commander, his admiral, his entire world up to this point, and he obeys. He throws his gas mask into the sea.
The conditioning is just that deep. Or perhaps it's not just conditioning. Perhaps it's a form of penance. In his mind, he failed Krieg. He broke his own code of loyalty, and so he accepts the punishment. His final act isn't one of defiance against Luffy's offer of help, but one of submission to the only world he's ever known.
Krieg doesn't hesitate, not for a second. He fires the MH5. This giant cannonball-looking thing with a skull on it flies onto the deck of the Baratie and just pops. A huge cloud of purple poison gas starts pouring out, covering everything. The art here is fantastic. You can feel the silence as this toxic fog just rolls over the battlefield.
The chefs on the Baratie are smart. They know they can't breathe it, so they all dive overboard to wait it out underwater. Zeph, Patty, Carne, all of them. It speaks to their experience. They're cooks, but they've seen the horrors of the sea. They know an unwinnable fight when they see one, and they know how to survive.
Krieg's crew is fine. They've got their masks on. They look like a bunch of post-apocalyptic monsters. But Luffy, Sanji, and the now defenseless Jin are right in the middle of this poison cloud. It's a death sentence. The panels get hazy, you see them coughing, choking. It's legitimately terrifying.
And this is where Luffy's brain just works on a different level. He's not thinking about the fight anymore. He's not thinking about Krieg. He's not thinking about strategy or his promise to Sanji or the restaurant. He's thinking about survival. Not just his own, but everyone's. His priorities snap into perfect, simple clarity.
Pure instinct. He zips over to two of Krieg's pirates and just snatches the masks right off their faces. No hesitation. Gomo gomo no, yoink! He sees a problem and an immediate physical solution and he just does it. He doesn't ask, he doesn't negotiate, he takes. Because their need is less than Sanji's and Jin's. It's so simple and so effective.
He runs through the poison, straight to Sanji, and shoves a mask on his face. Sanji is his crewmate, his friend. That's the first priority. Then he turns and does the same for Jin, the man who was his enemy 5 minutes ago, the man who just willingly threw his own mask away. Luffy doesn't care about any of that.
Because that doesn't matter to Luffy. What matters is Krieg is punishing Jin for doing the right thing, and Luffy will not let that stand. He's saving Jin from Krieg's poison, but he's also saving him from Krieg's twisted ideology. He's showing him with actions, not words, that you don't get left to die just because you showed a little heart.
And secures the masks on both of them, and then turns to find one for himself. But there are none left. The two pirates he stole from are long gone, and everyone else is masked up. He's surrounded by masked enemies, and the poison is getting thicker. The panels start to close in on him, showing the gas seeping into his lungs.
For a second, it looks like that's it. He saved them, but he doomed himself. It's just a classic Luffy move. He acts so fast to save his friends that he completely forgets to save himself. It's his greatest strength and his biggest weakness all rolled into one. And then he spots one, just lying on the deck.
It seems like a miracle, a deus machina. Maybe one of the Krieg pirates must have dropped despair. He scrambles for it, his vision blurring, and he grabs it just as the gas becomes completely overwhelming. He slaps it onto his own face, and we see him take that first clean breath.
The chapter then gives us this quiet moment. 5 minutes pass. Oda uses a few silent panels to convey the passage of time. The gas slowly dissipates. The air clears. We see the figures on the deck become clear again. And we see the aftermath.
Luffy is okay. Sanji is okay. They take their masks off. They're coughing, but they're alive. But then they look over at Jin.
And Jin is on the ground. His skin is purple. Blood is coming out of his mouth. And he isn't wearing a mask. The mask Luffy put on him is lying on the deck beside him.
A beat of confusion. It doesn't make sense. And then Luffy looks at the mask in his own hand. He looks at it, and then he looks at Jin. And he understands. It wasn't a miracle. There wasn't a spare mask on the deck.
Jin gave him his mask.
He put the mask on Luffy's face when Luffy wasn't looking, in the chaos of the gas. While Luffy was gasping for air, blinded by the poison, Jin, in his last moments of strength, took the mask Luffy had given him and placed it on Luffy instead.
Super. That's One Piece. That is everything this story is about, right there in one action. The cycle of kindness. Sanji feeds a starving enemy. Jin is moved by that kindness. He defies his captain to save Sanji. Luffy, seeing this, tries to save Jin. And then Jin, having seen this new world, pays the debt forward by saving Sanji's future captain's life. It's a perfect, beautiful, tragic circle.
Jin broke the cycle of his loyalty to Krieg, and in his final moments started a new one. He chose to honor the debt to Sanji over the orders from Krieg. He saw a brief glimpse of a different way to live, a different way to lead, and he chose to protect it.
He saw in Luffy and Sanji a different kind of strength, a strength not built on armor and weapons, but on compassion, and he bet on them. He bet on them with his own life. He made the ultimate sacrifice for a man he barely knew because of the kindness of another man he barely knew.
That excess Krieg complained about, that flicker of humanity, It didn't just win on the battlefield, it won, period. It was the single most important quality he had. It's the quality that saved the future Pirate King. In the end, Jin's humanity was infinitely more powerful than all of Krieg's weapons.
And it cost him everything, but it saved everyone who deserved to be saved. Oda has been building this pressure cooker with Jin's character for this whole arc, from the moment he stumbled into the Baratie to his fight with Sanji to this, and the payoff is just staggering. Bro, this is what it's all about. This is what makes this story so incredible.
It completely recontextualizes Jin's character. He's not just a conflicted subordinate. He's not a tragic villain. He's a tragic hero who found his own code, his own will at the very end. His final act was his own, not an order from Krieg. It was the first truly free thing he did in the entire arc.
Unbelievable chapter. Just top to bottom, an emotional masterpiece. I can't wait to see Luffy's face when he fully processes what just happened. This is a kid who has fought for his life, who has seen his friends get hurt, but I don't think he's ever had someone die for him before.
I think we're about to see a side of his anger we haven't seen before. This feels different from fighting Moji over Choo-Choo's pet food store, or even from defeating Kuro. This is personal. This is a response to a sacrifice made in his name. The stakes for him, emotionally, have just been raised to a whole new level.
It is. A man just died for him. An enemy, a pirate he barely knew, chose to save him. That's going to change something in Luffy. That's a debt you can't just repay by beating the bad guy. That's a debt you carry.
I just wonder what his final words will be, if he even has any.
Okay, predictions for Chapter 63. I've got 2. First, Jin is going to have just enough breath left for a final message. He's not going to waste it on hate. He's either going to tell Krieg, "You were wrong about what true strength is," or he's going to look at Luffy and tell him to take care of Sanji. He'll say something like, "He's a good man. Don't let this world break him." It's going to be the thing that officially pushes Sanji to join the crew, hearing this final wish from the man whose life he saved.
That feels very likely. Jin's last act will be to forge the bond between Luffy and Sanji. My first prediction piggybacks off that. Krieg's reaction to Jin's death will be absolute indifference, maybe even contempt. He'll probably laugh, call him weak, and say he got what he deserved for his sentimentality. That mockery, spitting on the grave of the man who just made this incredible sacrifice, will be the final trigger for Luffy. The fight will stop being about the restaurant and become about avenging Jin's humanity.
Oh, 100%. My second prediction, Luffy is going to be so filled with this righteous fury that he's going to shatter Krieg's Watt's steel armor. Not just dent it, but break a piece of it clean off. We've been told over and over how indestructible this armor is. Luffy is going to break it not with a gimmick, but with pure, unadulterated gum-gum-powered rage. A Gomu Gomu no bullet, maybe. Something that shows his will is stronger than Krieg's steel.
That's a good one. It would be a powerful symbolic victory. My second prediction is that Zeph and the other cooks will surface from the water right as this is happening. They won't have seen the sacrifice, but they'll see the aftermath. The gas clearing, Jin's body on the deck, Luffy radiating fury, and Sanji standing there, resolute. Zeph, with his experience on the Grand Line, will understand the weight of the situation immediately. He'll give Sanji a quiet nod, a look that says, "Go, your place isn't here anymore." The decision for Sanji to join will be made without a single word between them, an understanding passed from one found father to his son.
I love that. A silent understanding. So good. Final prediction from me, a bit of a smaller one. Pearl is going to try and get involved again. He's all about his invincible defense. He'll see Krieg is on the ropes and try a sneak attack on Luffy, and Sanji is going to intercept him with a single, devastating kick that takes him out of the rest of the fight for good. No big speech, just one clean shot. It'll be his way of saying, "My fight is here now. I'm protecting my new captain." It's his first official act as a Straw Hat, even before he says yes.
My final prediction is a bit more structural, thinking about Oda's pacing. I think the fight between Luffy and Krieg will be so intense, so raw, that we'll end the chapter not with a final blow, but with a brief cutaway to Nami on the Going Merry. She'll be looking through a telescope at the chaos on the Barati from a distance, clutching the ship's rail with a look of profound conflict on her face. It will remind us that as this deeply personal battle reaches its climax, another storm is brewing. Arlong Park is waiting, and Nami's own impossible choice is drawing closer. It will be Oda's way of telling us that even a victory here won't solve all of their problems.